Hi everybody, it's 314 React here. Today we're going to be looking at Cyberpunk 2077 and doing some comparisons between DLSS and AMD's FSR. They're not completely comparable because FSR is a spatial upscaling technology and DLSS is a lot more smarter. It uses machine learning and I believe it takes in temporal information about a scene and also upscales it using ML to fill in the gaps. So they are two different technologies, but they are the only two technologies available on this game. So we're going to be comparing them. We've got all the settings set to absolute maximum here. We're running on RTX 3090. Everything on Psycho, ray tracing on. We're going to start off with DLSS. We're going to run some benchmarks. And then I'm going to use ICAT to do some comparisons between the image quality. I've already done some pre-checks on this. And I've noted that ultra quality FSR actually runs a good few FPS slower than DLSS at quality. And looks a little bit worse. But it'll be good to see what quality FSR looks like compared to quality DLSS and what the frame rate's like. So let's dive right in. There's a new benchmark mode right here. We're just going to go into that. So the first test is going to be DLSS quality. So the frame rate's about 30, sometimes dipping even below 30 here. If you actually put the DLSS on auto or performance, it boosts it right up to about 40 to 60, depending on the area you're in. I think there's something to do with the internal resolution and LOD or ray counts or something else to do with resolution that directly affects performance. Because when I turn off ray tracing but leave DLSS on at quality, the frame rate's still quite low, and when I put it up to performance it goes up again even without ray tracing on, and especially when I turn DLSS off, even with no tracing, it still hits the frame rate hard. So there's something else to this game where resolution heavily affects some of the settings, I believe, that causes the frame rates to drop. Ah, that's a nice quick benchmark, wasn't it? Wow, okay. Yeah, average FPS 34, minimum 25, max 46. Okay, so that's a really quick benchmark. Alright, so now we're going to flick DLSS onto auto mode, which I believe chucks it onto balanced. Let's run that benchmark again. So already you can see the frame rate's flown right up. Gone from about 30 to 44, 48. And you're not overall going to notice too much of an IQ difference between auto and quality. You'll notice a bit, especially when it's moving and smaller objects in the distance. But I think that lower internal resolution, as I say, is causing ray counts, LODs, and various other things to tone down in the game engine, giving it a much, much higher frame rate. Because usually when you go from no DLSS to quality, the frame rate doubles. But without DLSS, it's like 23 frames a second, and with DLSS, it's 33 frames a second. It could also be my older CPU. I am running a 6700K. I don't know. I'm going to upgrade it soon and we'll find out more. But from results from what I've seen in other places, this is kind of similar for a 3090 at max settings 4K. So yeah, there you go. Your average FPS is up to 50 there. So that's quite a bit higher. Again, still not as much as other games. Other games you'd be seeing over twice the frame rate. I think on Horizon Zero Dawn, I saw the frame rate go up to like over twice with quality DLSS versus native. So let's try it with DLSS off and see what happens. See, the frame rate is absolutely horrible here. 18 frames a second. So that means we're only getting, like I said, about 10 to 15 extra frames with DLSS quality on. Which actually, that is kind of doubling it, actually, to be fair. So, yeah, 17 to 34, 16 to 32, yeah, okay. Again, I'll be very interested to see how much my CPU affects this. Because my CPU utilization is only at 32%, but it depends how much the OS allocates to the CPU versus other things going on. I'm not 100% sure. So it could very well be that even with these same settings, same graphics card, a new CPU could boost these settings up. But I think this still is going to give a good overview for the different performance levels. And when we do a comparison between the image quality, That'll be a good look into that as well. So yeah, 18.12 average FPS. Wow. And that's with DLSS completely off. I'm also running G-Sync monitor as well, so having V-Sync on shouldn't make too much difference. I doubt we're going to go over my monitor's refresh rate anyway. And this is just a quick run without V-Sync, just to prove that. And yeah, same frame rate. It's just now we're getting screen tearing. So, yeah. I think without VSync, this game would be very difficult to play, because running it at like 30 to 60 FPS would feel really, really horribly sluggish with VSync on, or without VSync on, you'd just be getting frame tearing everywhere. Yeah, basically the same result. So we've tested DLSS quality and auto and having it switched off. Let's check out FSR at ultra quality, and then we'll try some of the lower settings a bit later. Doesn't look too bad at the moment. Looks like the ray counts may be lower. I don't think that reflection was quite as good. I'm not sure what internal resolution this will be running at. I imagine actually it's probably the same resolution as DLSS quality internally. I think that's a couple of FPS lower than DLSS quality. And I think the image quality will suffer because of that. So let's try just quality FSR. So yeah, it's very similar settings to DLSS quality, balance, performance, ultra performance. Stick it on quality. So it looks like the frame rate's a bit higher, but it does look a bit more blurrier, a little less defined. There'll be some more strange aliasing and pixel shimmering in some of the more detailed areas, I bet, like that barbed wire.
Because I already have 5. You can't force a 6 on me.
36.6. It's very similar to DLSS quality. So I think these settings on the higher end, quality DLSS and ultra quality and quality FSR, they're pretty similar in terms of performance from what we've seen here. Within the same sort of 5 FPS range, but there's probably some differences in the image quality. So if you're happy with the FPS that quality DLSS gives you, I'd say go with that. But now let's try and notch things down a bit, and let's take it down to performance on DLSS. So immediately, huge boost to the FPS, but you're seeing some details being lost, especially in the character's hair there. But how noticeable is it is the question. Obviously, YouTube compression will change some of the results you're seeing. But what I'm seeing is a lot more aliasing. Trying to see if this reflection... Yeah, I think that looks a little bit less high res. I think like I said, the lower the internal resolution, the less rays are going out. Oh, there's a lot of aliasing on that bin lid there and on that fence. So there's a definite quality drop. But not a huge amount. It's just in the finer details, but you do get a lot of extra frame rate. Finally reached 60 FPS there. It's a 50.7. That's not bad. I think performance is very viable there. So now we're going to go to the setting that usually looks horrible, ultra performance. Now immediately we're past the 60 FPS barrier there. And there's a noticeable image quality drop, especially in the background details. And when there's a lot of smoke, it seems. That seems to be affecting things a little bit. But it's not too horrific. Oh, some weird stuff going with that little sign down there. But we are getting a solid over 60 FPS. It's just a lot of extra aliasing and stuff. Again, that reflection doesn't actually look too bad. I'm wondering if the ray counts are not just tied to the internal resolution. They might be tied to the external resolution as well. I don't know. Either way, this doesn't look too bad. You're just getting a bit of aliasing and a bit of shimmering in the detail areas there, like between the trees. Also looks like a bit of blur there as well. That's a fairly decent boost to the FPS, 67.8. Yeah, that's pretty good. But I don't think I can handle the image quality drop there. So I'd probably recommend performance over ultra performance. But if you don't mind that, then that's fine. That's a really good boost in quality to get your average consistently over 60 FPS like that. With only one dip to 29.8. And again, that was probably a CPU bound area hitting. Interestingly, just sat on this menu, my CPU is at 79, 73%. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it do that in-game, so I don't know why it's doing that in the menu. Anyway, let's look at some lower quality FSR modes. So let's turn DLSS off, and then we turn FSR to performance. I'm going to skip balanced and just go straight to the performance modes. Oof. Yeah, now this is where it starts to look like old school upscaling. Like, yeah, that's not good. And the frame rate's not even that good either. The frame rate's below 60. Jeez. That looks really rough. Like you've just set the resolution scale to below 100%. And it's not even hitting 60 FPS. Wow. Oh, the blur, the blockiness. $54.4. Wow. Oh yeah, I was not expecting that. Why is that so low? Doesn't seem right. So I imagine ultra performance is going to look really horrible. And the frame rate's about what it was at with... Oh, jeez. The frame rate is about what it was at with... Wow. That looks horrendous. The frame rate's about what it's at, I think, with even performance DLSS, but it looks awful. I think you'd probably get the same image quality. Yeah, just by turning down the internal resolution. Oh, God. Yeah, that's really nasty. And yet that reflection down there still seems to hold up. Oof. Yeah, that's it's almost like unintentional depth of field there. Oh, my word.
Don't worry, I'll survive. It's been worse. 6
Hmm.
months before. Then it's
Phew. 68.71. I'd say stick with DLSS if you need to go to the lower settings. DLSS Performance or Ultra Performance look better than that. That was just a little bit above running the resolution lower. The only thing it was doing was avoiding like monitor level interpolation. But my god, that looked horrible. So yeah, avoid the lower end FSRs. In fact, unfortunately avoid FSR overall. I don't know if FSR works better on an AMD, but generally it just doesn't work that good at all. Very strange, because it looks worse and provides worse results than DLSS. Again, I suppose you can't really compare them directly as a technology, but still, I'd expect FSR to look a little bit worse, but perform a lot better. So I don't know, but I suppose they aren't one-to-one technologies. The next thing to do is do some ICAT comparisons between DLSS quality and FSR ultra quality, the two highest settings, and FSR runs slower than DLSS ultra quality, so I just want to take a scene and just do a comparison to see what the actual image quality is. So let's jump over to ICAT. Alright, so here we are with FSR ultra quality on the left and DLSS quality on the right. Now both look pretty good. This scene was giving me about 33 FPS on FSR ultra quality and about 42 on DLSS quality, so it's about 9 FPS extra with DLSS. Just doing a quick comparison overall. You can tell there's a little bit smoother in the barbed wire there. There are some other differences beyond just the resolution. So as you can see, obviously things are a bit smoother, look a bit better DLSS, but some of the lighting seems to change just a bit between the two as well. So you can see these windows up there. I noticed that I think there's actually an extra bit of reflection with FSR ultra quality there, whereas that reflection is gone in DLSS quality. At least I think that is a reflection. So to me that looks like that window is reflecting something from the outside world back, and then it just isn't doing it with DLSS, which is interesting. I'm wondering. And that window looks a little bit more fuzzy there as well, the one above it. So I'm wondering if FSR ultra quality, not so much of these windows, it just seems to be that window. I don't know why. I'm wondering if it's something to do with ray counts, as in the higher resolution internally that FSR ultra quality is running is giving more internal ray counts than DLSS quality, and that could also be affecting the frame rate. Because obviously if there's more rays being shot out and dealt with, that's going to cause the frame rate to go. So I'm just looking up some details of FSR here, and yeah, ultra quality is 1.3 times per dimension. So in order to get 4K out, you need to put in 2954 by 1662 pixels. Whereas conversely, with DLSS, to get 4K out, you need to put in 2560 by 1440 at quality. So the highest DLSS setting requires less pixels going in to reach 4K than the highest FSR. That explains the frame rate difference and some of the ray counts in the background there. Now as for the overall quality, discarding the lighting and stuff, there's certain details close up that look better with DLSS, like the screen here and the metal there on the gun, the gold bit, especially more detail. But then as we go to some of the more distant areas, like this traffic light, seems to be more well defined in FSR. But then you have these distant areas like these air conditioning bits where they look more aliased in FSR, but sometimes there's a bit more detail in them. but it's a bit smoother on DLSS, especially this bit here. You got this little grate kind of thing here. Looks like you're getting shimmering with FSR on, but not so much with DLSS. But it also looks like there's maybe a bit more definition to this sign with FSR, which could be related to ray counts. It may not be. There's some stuff going on here. We see in these, the geometry there is just going below the resolution, whereas DLSS is filling that detail back in. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Some things will look a bit better with FSR, and some things will look a bit better with DLSS. So it's kind of a trade-off. But overall, I think I'd go for DLSS overall, just because of the performance, and you're not necessarily going to notice some of the more detailed things like these windows up here and the different shadowing and shading with the higher ray counts with FSR. It'll be really interesting if NVIDIA actually release a ultra quality DLSS mode, which was supposed to be coming, but I haven't seen it yet. But again, it just shows how impressive DLSS is to be getting better image quality overall, I would say, but upscaling from a lower resolution than FSR. And now I'm also going to try NVIDIA's NIS and directly compare that to FSR, because that'll be interesting to see, with the same scaling as well, 1.3 scaling. So unfortunately, I'm in game here, and I can't seem to actually get NIS to work. It's just literally just shoving the monitor down to a low resolution. I'm not seeing the NIS symbol as green, which indicates that it's on. It looks absolutely horrible. So I don't actually think it's doing anything, unfortunately, which is really annoying. And I also can't get the NVIDIA overlay to show up to show me the FPS. I can already tell that just looks worse than FSR ultra quality. Like it just, yeah. So I can't get NVIDIA NIS to work with Cyberpunk, so I can't do NIS versus FSR, which is annoying. But there you go. So I think the overall takeaway is stick with DLSS, stick it on auto or performance if you need those extra FPS, because that'll give you the good balance between image quality and frame rate. I think auto mode just sets it to balanced anyway, depending on your frame rate. It's weird that FSR doesn't work that well. It's really weird. Interestingly though, at this resolution, I can see that reflection in that window is present, and this is the same resolution that FSR ultra quality runs on internally. So yeah, I'm fairly certain FSR ultra quality is hit with frame rate quite hard because the internal resolution is higher, so the ray counts are higher, so the frame rate gets hit. That helps explain why. It still doesn't quite explain why FSR, even in its ultra performance mode, barely squeezes by 60 FPS. I don't know, something strange is going on there. That was a good look at FSR versus DLSS in Cyberpunk 2077. I'm hoping to get my PC upgraded at some point, and I'm also hoping later this year to get a 4090. It'll be really good to see if the game can breach 60 FPS full settings at 4K with that on. But I hope you're all having a good year so far. Please do like and subscribe, hit the little bell, really helps. Leave a comment, let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video.